Welcome back to another episode of a podcast written by a software engineer. I'm your host, Perry, and today I actually have a really sick guest for you guys. I'm with Jonathan. Jonathan, how are you doing?
What's up? I'm doing pretty well. Actually, I am doing pretty well. I mean, it's COVID. Everything's good. I'm working out because I have nothing else to do. So, yeah, I'm good.
Because I was going to say, it's funny because, I'm good. And the first thing you break up is COVID. And it's like, oh, what's going on? It's funny because for the people who don't know at the moment, the current status, right now, we're about, end of 2020 or somewhere around that, coming into 2021. And there's a big pandemic. So I don't know, if people keep on listening back, years later, it's like, yeah, we're currently in the middle of a pandemic, which is why a lot of topics might revolve around that. But actually, I'm going to admit, that's not the topic of today. I'm absolutely glad that you're on the show at the moment because you do a lot of cool stuff nowadays. And one of them is you actually do run podcasts as well, which we're going to definitely dive into. But yeah, for the people who are not familiar with you and what you do nowadays, give us a brief intro. What you up to,
Oh, okay, cool. So you see, I am a mechanical engineer and I work at this engineering firm called Slab Innovation. And what I do is pretty much everything because the company is a small company. And you know what? Small companies are pretty awesome. You get to touch pretty much everything. But basically, I'm just a mechanical designer, so I design machines. Lots of machines with slabs of cement and stuff like that. So we do lots of automation, robots, and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome.
That's actually really cool because there was nothing in my mind that came across where slab innovation, the actual word slab actually meant something.
I'll tell you what it meant, okay? It's my boss's name.
Okay, it's like a coincidence.
Slab. I mean, basically, when you were in school and you would take the last three letters of your family name and the first letter of your name, and that's it. So it's SLAB.
Oh, that's actually quite funny because
and also
right,
it
cool.
makes sense of the company because we're working in cements and stuff. With the cement and the slab of cement is that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's a bloody good coincidence that it happened that way because you can always name the different companies that are out there like Zillow or Hopper, that kind of stuff. Those names don't really mean anything because as in if you hear Hopper, you don't really know what the actual company does. But now that you talk about Slab Innovation, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But that's pretty sick. So that's actually your main focus nowadays. I want to dive definitely into how that kind of works. I already threw out some really good concepts in terms of you're working with machinery, working with different types of, very hands-on engineering tasks as opposed to all this theoretical, which is on the other side. So we're going to get to that, but there's a lot of other stuff that you do. On top of that as well, I heard you run a podcast. So you want to tell us a bit how that looks like today?
Seriously, the podcast, well, right now we're at season 3. Episode 1 is already out, so episode 41. And yeah, exactly. We're 40 episodes in. It's pretty awesome. With the COVID happening right now, things are going a little bit slower. And also, we've been doing a lot of other projects on the side. I'm recording a mixtape for my roommate, so that's pretty awesome. And we're going to release the mixtape in December. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure people are going to be looking forward to that. Just because when I said that, you were doing a lot of things. That was just an understatement of what's happening. So if I just have to give a recap of who Jonathan is, just a quick overview before we dive super into how you became that person to begin with. Nowadays, you're doing great engineering stuff at Slab Innovation. You also run a podcast on the side, which is called the Recipe Podcast. People do check it out. You do actually all the audio engineering and all the producing behind it, which is super impressive because, I've been trying to figure out how my setup works and I've already gotten really good feedbacks from you. So we're definitely going to dive into that as well. And then as you were saying, you do have a lot of experience in terms of mixing and even just doing DJ gigs as far as I know, right? That was a part of your history at some point, right?
Exactly, but I'm not a DJ anymore because I haven't been mix. Well, actually, I do mix. I still mix. I still do have mixtapes. I just don't mix in front of people. Because of COVID.
Yeah. It might come back on some point as far as I know.
Hope.
But yeah, yeah, imagine that's the end of it. No, that for the rest of the 100 years gonna stay like this. All right, hopefully not. Crossing my fingers on it.
It's pretty crazy because I haven't got paid since February.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's
all right.
horrible. It's whatever.
Yeah, we could dive into the actual logistics behind it. As in obviously it's a bit horrible, but I feel like it's good knowledge for you don't always apply it just for DJing, right? There's a lot of similar situations. So those like in terms of like those three paths of like different talent and different like job and tasks that you do nowadays, like I want to figure out how, you got to that point because everybody starts, kind of the same point. It's not completely true. Nobody starts at the exact same point. What I mean by that is that like we've all been kids before. We've all went through some sort of education, fortunately, just because, I mean, we both grew up in Canada, specifically like, I've known you since elementary school. So this is way back, like, what, 20 plus years? Okay, we're not that old. Maybe pushing 20, but so yeah, we both grew up in, I guess, Montreal, and it's a very French community. And the first time I ever met you was in elementary school. So that goes way back. But did you always like knew even back then as like a young kid from like 6 to whatever 10 years old that you were gonna go into this path of like so much heavy engineering work and so much, I guess, tech involved nowadays just because of all the equipments that you have?
Seriously, maybe. Actually, when I was in elementary school, if I remember correctly, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I went to dig up some dinosaurs and or airplane pilot because I traveled a lot. I mean, like when I met you, like I just came back from Mauritius. I actually lived there for like 2.5 years, and
Oh wow.
yeah, I never told you that.
Well, I'm pretty sure you did, but I feel like that was just another cool thing to drop right now.
Exactly.
I do know that you have a lot of roots over there as well. So like, I always got jealous actually for all the people that got the chance to go there, and then especially when you say living there, it's a different lifestyle, is it?
It is.
One thing I always ask people in Mauritius, I don't know if it's true, but I always assume if somebody tells me Mauritius in my head, I'm imagining like beaches, and then you have like houses really close to the beaches. Is that true for most of it, or does it actually look kind of like there's high rises where they have like some proper industrial buildings as well?
Yeah, it's actually it's not a third world country because the tourism there is so good that like seriously like they make a lot of money. So like it's advanced civilization on an island ish kind of.
Okay.
They have look to give you an example. They have a university on an island, so like that's already there is pretty good. They have I guess they could have higher education.
That's actually so bad of me. I feel like I've just been ignorant about this stuff. No, I'm kidding. Not being ignorant. I think it's just really just painting the picture, right? Because fortunately, I do know quite a lot of people from Mauritius. I've never been there, which is really annoying. But in terms of when you were saying like it's very modern, it supports a university where there's it probably emphasizes the people getting the chance to live there to experience it, and then on top of the actual tourism that happens over there. It's actually great. So, I mean, obviously, I'll put them on my bucket list. But we're going to talk about traveling because you did do a bit of traveling as well, and I absolutely love it. Just because you get to talk about different stuff, you get to talk about different food, different kind of like, thinking between two different cultures. So, this is one of the when you bring up Mauritius, I just wanted to pinpoint your brain a little bit on that. But yeah, when we're talking about like when you were in elementary school, in terms of like you kind of had a feeling that there was kind of some tech slash like engineering slash like even archaeology. I want to bring that up real quickly is that like you do need some system to be able to do archaeology, right? You need to be able to grab some information, whether it be directly from like fossils or whatever, but then like you also need to apply it and then like work with it at the end. So I think this
that was archaeology was just like I just love dinosaurs, man. Like Jurassic Park was the thing. I just loved it, and that was it. And then I realized there is no money to make it in it. Like you're not rich. I think you're not rich. You're not rich, and also you might not find dinosaur bones. And I was like, nah, I don't want this anymore. It's like I don't want to find. I want to find dinosaurs. I want to be Alan Grant. Yeah, that's what I wanted to be. And then when I realized there was no money in it and no dinosaurs, you imagine like you going through this one fossil for 4 years. This one fossil, and it's just like it's not even that great. You're like, oh, I wasted my time.
Yeah, it turns out to be like some rogue insect. But to be fair, even the rogue insect might have had a massive impact on like the ecosystem during that time.
Exactly,
so.
But like I just wanted to see like have a bunch of dinosaurs. That's it. I wanted to uncover like the Velociraptor underneath my house. I really thought there was dinosaurs underneath my house when I was a kid.
I think a lot of people want to believe that. I think that's one thing that everybody want to be able to tell me, like, yeah, you know what happened the other day? Like, in my backyard, we're just chilling around, and somehow they just pulled this, like, dinosaur bone out of it.
that was my thing. But, like, engineering really started more, like, in high school, actually. And you know what's funny? in elementary school, my English was really bad. Like I was basically a French kid. I wasn't speaking English at all. And now I don't know what happened.
I think that's a gift, man. I think that's a gift more than anything. Because one thing that I can relate personally is that since we grew up in Montreal, fortunately through the education system, like we both went to a French elementary school, we both went to a French high school, and like just because of that, exposure, you start learning French like by osmosis, just because that's your everyday life. And then next thing you know, like English comes. There they do put an effort to teach English people over here, but I lived in the West. You also lived in the West, so a lot of times we just end up like knowing English as we grow up. So fortunately, today we could talk French. We could do this whole thing in French, but I think like we're just gonna lose like so many people, and I'll bore myself because my French is terrible to begin with.
I mean, like I speak French at work. I mean, I work in French, but the clients
Oh
are in
yeah.
English. Is hilarious. My colleagues are French, but my clients are English.
Especially if you talk to me, I'll be like, "Oh, I have no idea what you're saying in French because I'm terrible." I'm kidding. I still remember quite a bunch of it, but you actually mentioned a speck of the engineering influence, or like the engineering, like light bulb that came in. Was that towards the end of high school? You were saying, like, what was that
Yeah.
moment?
So basically, I when I was in high school, I used to love to draw cars. That was my thing, like every young high school kids, everybody loved, oh, I don't know, I loved Too Fast Too Furious. I loved the Nissan Skyline GTR. That was my car. I wanted to have it. I was drawing that car every day in art class. Literally, if you look at my art book, I was actually a good artist. Like I love to draw, and I was just drawing cars, and at the end I was like, what do I want to be? And I went to the counselor, and I'm like, I love drawing cars. I just want to make a car. And she's like, oh, you should become an engineer. And I was like, automotive engineer. I want to do that. I want to make cars. I want to have my name underneath a car. And basically, she's like, okay, well, go to CJEP. We'll talk about CJEP later. And do like a technique en génie mécanique, which is like basically I'll become a technician, mechanical engineering technician. And if you like it, then you could always become a mechanical engineer. And since then, I just kind of followed that path of becoming a mechanical engineer. It just worked. I was like, oh, it works. Let's do
I was
this.
gonna say, yeah, that is okay. Two shout outs real quickly. Shout outs to the counselors out there. Shout out to the people who are giving people direction, because as you were saying, like this position you were in, where it's like you do have an interest, but sometimes you don't know exactly what's the next step or how to do it. The people out there, the counselors, they are doing that job. They're the ones that actually do a lot of good work, and they deserve a lot of credit for directing people in the right way and just like showing people that the world is big and the world is their oysters and they can have all the options. So that's shout out number one. Shout out number two is drawing freaking cars, man. Like that sounds so cool in terms of like not only is it a hobby, but then again, like it's just an inspiration that drove you to keep on pushing this interest that you have to begin with. I'm saying this, which is quite funny, because I was talking to another guest of mine on the show, and he was saying that one of the inspiration of him becoming a designer was that during high school or during like school days, he was drawing football shoes. So that was like football boots, right? That was like the kind of same concept where it's like, it's just an interest, and then you get to apply it nowadays. So if we talk about the days we were talking about like drawing cars, did you have a system in terms of like, yeah, you have the GTR that you absolutely love, and it's a pretty sick car. I could give you that. What was the thinking? As in like, okay, so you're starting with a blank piece of paper. Like, how do you go about it?
Okay, so you see, you open your book of cars. I don't like car of the year. Not car of the year. What was it? That car book that has all the cars you could buy. that was it. Like like the book that has all the cars and all the prices. You're like, ooh, this is really nice. Let me buy a GTR. And you look at the car, and then you all the cars are positioned the same way, kind of like an angle, and then you would just like look at the car and just draw it. That was pretty much it. I like even more than that. I would just like literally put the paper on the car and just draw it. I would never do that. It's just like I would just look at it and just draw it, and then that
I'm
was my
so
thing.
jealous. I'm so jealous of that, because the thing's like you're talking to a person who has absolutely no drawing ability, no artistic ability. Like when people are able to be like in taking this information, yeah, you look at a car in a picture in a book or something, and then you're able to redraw it after. That's one thing that even if I feel like I practice, I'll never be able to nail down. So like that, I'm already jealous to begin with. And it's funny how I tried to like break down this question where it's like, all right, you got a black piece of paper, where do you start? Like for you, it was like from 0 to 100 really quickly, just like a car. And I was like, okay, well,
Just look at. I mean, like I don't. That was my my train of thoughts. I mean, you weren't literally thinking of like oh how am I gonna draw the car? It's just like you look at it and you just do it. But like my drawing, in my opinion, my drawing. I'm not an artist. I mean, some artists that are like incredible, but yeah, in our entourage, and like I'm not like them, but like this is how I started. I mean, yeah, it was more like creative. Like I don't know, just that was it.
like I totally understand that like you can't really put a technical spin to it. Like my whole thing is that like I love having steps and like being really like process, which I mean sounds really tight, but hey, it is. So when I was talking about like drawing cars, I'm like, do you start with like drawing the body first? Do you start drawing the wheels first? Do you start drawing the windows? Like how do you choose which angle you do?
Oh,
Do you like
okay,
top
yeah,
down or like on the side first? Do you these are all the questions that I would ask somebody when they tell me they draw a car. And like this is basically, the spin to it.
I would just go for the lights, man. The headlights. They're just the headlights. The face of the car. Like the car's like kind of at an angle, like, and like I would start always with the face of the car. I love drawing little headlights, and then from the headlights you just kind of like draw the front of the car and just go down the body. It might not be the right way, but that's my way.
I was gonna say, yeah, you said it right, man. As in, like, who cares about the right way at the end of the day? Like, if we're talking about this is art, man. We're talking about art. We're talking about like just.
And also, me drawing cars. I was like a high school teenager. Like I don't know. Like no, like it's crazy talking about high school because I know it's kind of like off subject, but whatever. Like the teachers there in high school, I say art, they just say like, yo, just draw. They don't tell you like, they don't give you any technique. Well, they give you like coloring techniques and stuff like that. So, but at the end, they're just like, just draw, and that's it. Like they don't teach you how to draw a car. Like the teacher never taught me how to draw a car. They taught me about perspective and stuff like that, but that's basically it. They don't teach you stuff. Same thing as
it's always like, a fine line.
Exactly, same thing as I was thinking because this year I started to like run for the first time, and like I used to hate running. I still kind of hate running. It's not that great. It's cool, but it's not that cool. And I realized something, like when I was running in high school, it was horrible because the teachers literally that was it. It was like they make you run in the cold weather because it's always in like fall, and like you're breathing incorrectly, you're freezing. They don't teach you the proper stride and what's the mindset of running and stuff like that. And everybody hated running, but like seriously, running is like the best. I feel, in my opinion, is like the best sport you could do. That's basically free because you literally have nothing to buy besides, let's say, shoes if you really want to do it. And for you to like stay in shape and lose weight. It's that simple. Like you don't need to like achieve a certain, like the thing about it is also it's like always like you have to run to achieve a certain goal to get a grade, but that should not be it. That should be more like you should run to be in shape in general, like lose weight. Like there's so many overweight people in the world and none of them likes running. Like you can't love running and be overweight. It doesn't make sense. Unless you really eat like shit. Unless you really eat badly, but like most of the time. I was
gonna say, well, unless the whole recipe is completely wrong, like you do like the whole disastrous recipe and everything turns to, muck. But actually, one thing I do really like from this is that like it's the appreciation of what you have done in the past, but like you're able to enjoy it way later in your life. So when you're talking about like, going through art class and weren't exactly directly teaching you, stuff that you found interesting at that time or during the gym class back then where it wasn't interesting. But that just knowing that those exist. And then nowadays, if you're able to, practice them. So for example, running, like I do it 6 days a week nowadays, which is absolutely, boring. But I all the benefits you listed, 100% true, it keeps you in shape and everything. But it's not because I do it six days a week, that I love it. Like I personally hate running just because I find it so boring. I keep on doing it no matter what because benefits are there, but it's just like looking back and being able to appreciate that, okay, back then I didn't enjoy doing it, but nowadays it's a completely different perspective. And I feel like a lot of that is influenced from like just a different life experience that you had since that point. And even if we could bring back to that, so we're talking about like just already having a mindset of you being an engineer, having like a technical background and working of stuff that was towards the end of the high school. But then after high school, you actually got the chance to go into a program that is like quite involved into that. So, yeah, where did you end up going after high school?
Yeah, so I wound up going to Cégep de Saint Laurent, which is basically the in between high school and university, or just like
Hmm.
it's basically college. You know, like you could have a professional degree out of there, and I got a professional degree out of there, which is a how do you say this, a mechanical engineering technician. And with that, you basically you kind of know everything, but not everything at the same time. You're basically an engineer, but you're not an engineer.
As in, like that's you described something. I don't know. I don't know what exactly that something is. That's actually pretty cool in terms of like the idea is that mechanical engineering technician. This is my perspective, right? I didn't go into mech eng. I went into comp sci, which is still engineering, but very, very different. I always get, a bit intimidated by the word mechanical engineer. Just because from my experience, educational experience, when I was talking to other people doing mechanical engineering, every time they mention it, they say, "Oh yeah, we're doing CADs, right? They're doing these 3D model renderings. They're doing, they took a lot of theory classes on physics and all that." But none of that really gelled in terms of what application or like what kind of task a mechanical engineer do or expected to do when you come out of it. So mechanical engineering technician, what was the requirement to get into that to begin with? Actually, can anybody get into it? Was there like a very fixed set of background that they requested before you go into a professional program like that?
Actually, you must have your physics done, your chemistry's done. Uh, you have to have a certain degree of math. Be able to do a certain degree of math. I think it was um, technico science. What was math technico science? I don't know. Like it was like at least have like that certain level of math. I don't know which math you did when you were in high school. Probably did like science pure, right?
Yeah, it's really weird. As in, I'm pretty sure it's quite similar to a lot of high schools. That towards the end of high school, you kind of get to choose like a path. You get to choose more like the artsy political path, or you get to do like the sciencey like chemistry path at the end. So I don't remember exactly grades in there was sort of different like levels of differentiation, but I remember it was one or the other. So I went into the science path. So yeah, my background in like towards the end of high school was the science, chemistry, and all that. So that's as much as I can describe from it. So it is good that at least like even before going into it, you had the background to begin with. In high school, I'm pretty sure you ended up doing the math and sciences that actually let you get into this path of Cégep de Saint Laurent and into this degree of mechanical engineer technician. What did that program kind of look like? I keep on asking this, but what I'm trying to say is that like how much was theory and how much was actually like working on a project that you have to deliver by the end of the
Oh,
program.
actually, like that's what I like about that. Well, my program is that you did a lot of practical courses. It was really awesome. I mean, like we did like machining, so we were machining some parts and stuff like that, metal parts. You know, I actually have all my old projects from from CJEP. So it's like actually it's at work. You know, it's cool. You know, the stuff that you made yourself. You also have welding. You have what else do you have? Yeah, basically like the depending on it's funny because my program at the end of the program you have two it divides into two set categories, so either conception or fabrication. And depending on which one you choose, well, people that will go to university will go into conception, and like because well you conceptualize stuff, and the people that are just go straight to like work, they go into fabrication, where they'll do a lot more like like CNC machining and stuff like that. And at the end of your program, you have a project, so they had to build something, and then we only had to like make a concept of mechanical stuff, something mechanical.
At least it's kind of realistic that like you have to do both to end up having a product at the end. As in like you can't have a full-fledged product without conception, and you can't have it without fabrication. So it's kind of I never knew that there was this kind of breakdown in mechanical engineering where we're talking about conception is probably like I'm guessing I'm gonna lob design in there. I'm gonna guess like all the AutoCAD stuff and all the calculations and all to make sure that this whatever screw needs to be this long to be able to fit into this. I'm guessing that's all part of the conception. and the fabrication is probably going to be the hands-on bit where it's like, all right, now that we got the dimensions, now that we got the material, now we got that, let's do it. Let's let's put
Yeah,
these pieces
exactly.
together.
Like
So
is the more fabrication is like, okay, so now that you want me to do that part, how are you gonna do that part? You know, like that's the question. Is like, you want me to draw? Okay, you have like this shaft, okay, and this shaft you wanted to have like a certain form. All right, cool. Now how are we gonna do this? And that's the fabrication part. They're like, there's gonna be some machining, stuff like that, some tolerances, blah blah blah. They do that part. Well, they do that part. I mean, technically, we all have to do everything, but like conception is more like, okay, you kind of have the conception of this mechanical, like you do the conception of like whatever you just thought of, and now like he's like the fabrication part is like, how is this gonna be made basically?
that's actually pretty cool. Was it? Would you say that it was like a 50-50 then? The program that you went into, because you mentioned it's a professional program as opposed to a CJEP deck, which is diplôme d'études collégiales, which is more like a pretty word for saying, oh, it's a institutionalized education program that goes into theory and brings it to more education after. Yeah, so I think what I was saying was it like a even breakdown of 50% conception or 50% fabrication, or would you say that it's leaning more towards one than the other?
Uh, to be honest, I mean, like the separation only happens like basically you get to choose your path only like at the last year of your studies. So the you study for 3 years, and like the third year you get to choose. So it's pretty much like 50-50 ish, kind of. You touch pretty much everything. I mean, like you touch pneumatics, hydraulics, robotics, a lot of icks. Yeah, and like you pretty much see it's a well-rounded program. I mean, you get to like basically touch everything from ground zero to like a product. Basically, it's pretty awesome. It's like, imagine if you were watching the show How It's Made. Basically, like the how it's made. Like our program is how it's made. Like they literally show you from A to Z how things in general are made, and the only thing you don't see is the electrical part and the software part. Even software part, kind of, because we do a bit of programming for the robotics and stuff like that. There's a bit of robotics, so there's some programming involved.
Yeah. I think you probably did the best marketing for that program. It's like, hey, you remember that show, How It's Made? Well, hey, you can live it. Join Cégep de Saint Laurent in this program, and it's like, oh, I should work for their department now, or you should work for their marketing department. That would be great.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. So that was my time at Cégep Saint Laurent. It was cool. Uh, we had a lot of fun. I mean, I built like my project at the end of Cégep Saint Laurent, because everyone has a project, right? My project looked like a robot from Robot Wars, and it wasn't supposed to be that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, even I'm pretty sure the acceptance criteria was something completely different, but somehow you were like, no, let's just build. No, I'm kidding, but
Yeah,
you ended up building a Robot Wars similar like robot at the end.
it wasn't even a robot. It was literally supposed to be a robot, but it's okay. Like, this is how it looked like, and yeah, that's it.
Wait! You can't just be like, that's it. You can't just bring up the fact that you build a Robot Wars robot and like we're
Oh,
stopping on that. I just want
okay,
to know real quickly in terms of like, what was the functionality of it? Like, what can it do? What
okay.
like,
So
yeah, you said you had a
basically,
robot, but
it was the project was like we had to find a need, and the need was so I have one of my friends. You probably know him, Jean Philippe. Remember?
yeah,
From
man,
back
good
in the
guy.
days. A good guy, exactly. So I helped him a lot in his job, which was it élagage. So basically, he would like cut tree branches and like basically cut tree branches. That's his job. He cuts tree branches, and like at one point, like he would cut the logs also, and the logs were like 300 pounds. It was ridiculously heavy, and he would have to literally lift it and put it into the truck or the pickup or whatever it is. So I decided to invent this kind of a diable, like how you call this? I don't know how to say this in English. A diable for like his purpose. So that thing would do is I would take the logs. You could like carry that to like your car or whatever, and on the thing you could literally, there's a place where you could put your chainsaw on, cut the logs up, and then there's like this small thing that could actually lift the logs and then push them in your pickup truck or uh your um your truck or whatever. And yeah, and the way it looked like it looked like a robot wars robot. Like it was meant to like attack other robots. Like it would have like claws and stuff like this, and if you would put your chainsaw, it would be look even worse. It was all over the place. But you know what, at the end, like there was some design into it and it was pretty awesome.
Like when you say there was some design into it, that's definitely an understatement. I was like, if you
I
think
mean,
about all the moving parts
I
to
mean, there's
make
a lot of
this,
design into it. I mean, it was my final project. It's just like I look at back at it, I'm like, wow, this thing is not gonna work. Like it's funny because like this was like your school project, and I feel like school projects, like you think you did like an amazing job, but like now that you're like few years into your actual job as a mechanical designer, you look at this and you're like, I don't know, man. That design is not that great.
you learn how to do stuff, but you also learn how to not do stuff as well when you go through those like education phase. But that's actually a sick project. As in, like, those are the kind of stems where one day you would realize that if you revisit it, there could be so much potential. Because I'm pretty sure there's those people who have that problem at the end of the day. And then when you actually did spend time thinking about all the problems and all the way of solving each step, right? The step of, okay, we got to carry something really heavy to begin with. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that, is there enough space to actually cut the trunks, whatever, directly on the machine? That's problem number two. And then as you keep on going, you realize that you end up with a product that solves so many different problems that is related to somebody's pain point at the end of the day. So I would describe that as literally this is really glorified, but I'm just saying that's like the idea of engineering, is that like you end up producing something, designing something, whether it fully works super efficiently or not, that's like the refinement towards the end. But it's really good that the spirit was already there. Even, when you're saying as a student, you're kind of not, the brightest person in the world. Some of them are super bright, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we're talking about this machinery, and I'm sure you have it still somewhere lodged in like whether your house or something. And,
Yeah, seriously, I have like the whole like project. Like I think it's in my car right now because I gotta move stuff from my parents' house right now. So like, yeah.
See, you're using it. It's functional. That I can't bring up a single thing that I've made during my education system that I can actually use it back. So that, like, even from that perspective, I think it's already freaking cool.
Yeah.
Just because that's what you get when you talk to mechanical engineers, right? That's a good thing about getting nuggets of information out of you. But yeah, I'm enjoying absolutely all of this because so you did this professional program at the end at Cégep de Saint Laurent. I guess you had a choice there, right? Because when people do professional programs, the option is that you could go straight directly into a professional job, because that was I think the mindset of the difference between if you go into a DAP, which is a diplôme d'études professionnelles. That's like a straighter, more craftsmanship pathway to a
No,
professional
but
job.
basically it was a deck, right? Diplôme d'études collégiales, and then you become a technician, right? And or you go to university and become an engineer, because now you have that option. Before you didn't have that option. You need to like go into like sciences and stuff like that.
So what did you end up doing after the Cégep de Saint Laurent then? Because that already seemed like a really sick time.
Yeah, well, I went straight to like university. I was like, well, that was easy. I mean, that was my point of view is like, look, if I fail university, I still have a deck. I could still work as a technician. I don't care. Like if I don't like university, I could still work as a technician. So like my that was my like my safety net. So if I mess up, I still have a job. Like I still have a profession. I don't care. It's cool. And I'm like, let's try university, because at the end, my goal was to become a car designer or an automotive engineer. That was my goal.
Yeah, but you were building that background as you went. As in, like, when you did this program at Cégep Saint Laurent, that was the background the baggage that you got, because all this design and all this stuff contributed directly to that kind of dream. So did you bring that with you then to, you went to École de Technologie Supérieure, if I'm not mistaken, which is people who refer to ETS as short. But yeah, was that a big jump then, going from Cégep Saint Laurent mechanical engineering at Cégep Saint Laurent to mechanical engineering at ETS?
Like I would say like as a student, I became from a kid to an adult, or less of a kid. Let's not say an adult, less of a kid, because I feel like in Cégep Saint Laurent, it almost felt like high school. Like you were messing around, you weren't really like 100% into your program, just having fun with your friends and doing stuff and just like passing courses. You weren't really like deep into it, and then university happened, and you're just like, oh, okay, I gotta study. Like I gotta like put myself into second gear because this is I can't just like slack off and just like kind of like wing it. So that was there's a big difference between the two of them. But also I felt in university was the most fun time I ever had since because I've done so many things that I don't think I would have done. I went to two student I say social clubs, student clubs. So basically, I was part of the Formule ETS, which is like they build a race car
Oh
and
boy, all
compete
right.
against other universities. Probably against. I mean, you went to McGill. Like McGill was also build a race car, and we're I guess competitors to McGill and Polytechnic and all these like crazy. And we're the best. We were the best. We were the best in
Like
Canada.
I didn't even go to AJS, and I keep on hearing about AJS being really good at building these like cars and I'm pretty sure the competition. I've definitely heard of that because I think I know somebody who was actually on the that team at McGill. So it'd be funny. I'll try to bring that up again. But when you were talking about these student clubs and everything, those are so good because not only you have the main program, obviously it's a little bit harder step up than your CJEP ones compared to that, obviously. But I'm guessing you didn't have that many students club at CJEP SNL or not of that scale
There
before.
was well in mechanical there was none actually. There was none after I left though. They started a student club in the race car thing, but it didn't last that much because the thing about it is that it's hard to like get people involved. A lot of people are like let's say antisocial, and don't want to do much. And like the ones that want to do much, they'll stay in the club. But the thing is that it's hard to like keep the club going because you still have to recruit people, and that's a hard part in like every I guess uh teen like social clubs in general is that recruitment. Like it's hard to like they have everyone has a hard time recruiting people unless like you have a super cool club or whatever. But it's really hard to recruit people and to recruit reliable people because at the end they're students. They're kids. Like none of us we're not reliable. I mean, as a kid, I was not reliable. Like, come on.
I was gonna say you keep on saying that, and I 100% agree with you, which is like terrible to say because we've all been not all, but like the people that have gone through uni, you kind of know have your own expectation of how you've been and how that. So that's actually really funny. When you did mention that, and I do know the when you're talking about the cycle of like social clubs in university and everything, one of the reasons because the students are not there for like super long, right? They're there for like the length of their program, whether it be 3, 4, or 5 years, whatever it is. There's no guarantee that they'll be there forever, which is why this continuation happens much more, often than if you have like bigger companies. Not saying that people don't stay that long at companies, but companies you would have expectation that if you work at a real job, you'll probably stay there for 4, 5, 6 years, which is much longer than a university degree to begin with. If we talk about the actual club when you joined it and everything, like there's a couple like I already got loads of questions in terms of that, in terms of like what was your role in that thing, and the other bit that I'm probably gonna bring up is like the monetary fact behind it. You're building actual like hardware, cars, and everything, so that can't be cheap. So
Oh no, it's not. Okay, let's start with the price. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the price, but you know what? I'm not part of the team anymore, so who cares? That the car that we build every year. Well, I don't know if they still do it every year because of the whole COVID thing. Um, Cost around because at the end like of the competition, well, in the competition that we do, there's lots of criteria you must respect. Well, not respect, but like they evaluate on you on a lot of criteria: design, uh, and then like the design of the car, marketing, and cost. And we always lose cost. Like we win everything else, or like top five or like top 50 and everything else. But when it comes to cost, we're like almost last.
yeah, wait. So does that mean that the more expensive it is, the like bad it is in terms of the grading criteria?
Exactly for cost, but like cost is not it doesn't have that many points like according to it, so it's not that bad. But like we always lose cost by a lot, and the
Was there a
reason
cap?
no, there's no cap. It's just like the cheapest car wins has first place basically, and we're not the cheapest car. we're just not the cheapest car because the car is literally made out of carbon fiber. Let's start with this. It's made out of carbon fiber. The whole tub is made out of carbon fiber.
That's actually
And
pretty
to
funny.
give you an example, well, first the carbon fiber was sponsored by Bombardier, so we get like basically their carbon fiber scraps because like like when it goes to airplane stuff, when it comes to airplane stuff, the quality control is really steep, and they tend to throw away like carbon fiber really deliberately. So we were able to like recuperate the scraps, which is still good for automotive purposes, and we would cure them. And just to give you an example, the curing it was done at Aviar, I think, and you need like a big oven, right?
Oh wow.
And to use that oven, it's like $1,000 an hour, and we stay literally a whole week there.
Oh, pocket change.
Yeah, it's super cheap.
Okay.
it's,
Yeah, just
it's super cheap. It's super cheap. Absolutely. So the car was like, I think it was over $500,000 worth of material and like time and stuff like that.
Are you serious? 500,000. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I
if you
mean,
calculate
okay,
the whole
fine.
thing, yeah. But like,
Yeah, material and then like work hours and like the amount of people being involved and
not
everything.
even not even like we don't even count our hours. We're just counting like hours outside, like everything we bring outside. We calculate it. So yeah,
Yeah.
500K. Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of level of like dedication and commitment to get this prestige. Because the thing is, like, I didn't even go there, and I've heard about this club. It's a club at a university that you hear more than just outside of that university. So that's the kind of level of like prestigiousness I would say people may come over in the world of mechanical engineering, especially in the Montreal scene. So that being involved into that directly is already freaking cool to begin with, and then especially when you're mentioning on top of that, yes, you get sponsors, you get exposure to tools and places that you would never otherwise have access to. I think that was just a big positive for doing stuff like this. I'm saying that because I personally I didn't really join many like students club, which I'm very guilty of. So this is the opposite end, right? Like you've done that, you've got so many good stories from it, just because hey, look, the competition you've been into. For the people who don't know about the competition, real quickly, like what does it involve? Do people actually go in these cars and drive around, or?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start like a main like a regular like it's called Formula SE, which means like Formula Student AE. I have no idea. Automotive Engineering, FSA, and you go there. You bring your car, and then they basically test your car. So you test your car in handling, you test your car in acceleration, you test your car in autocross, and then at the end it's endurance. And then in between there's also like other criteria that are being calculated, which is marketing. So like people are trying to like you're trying to sell your car, and there's also design saying like what you improved in your car. So in design we always like we're really a team that loved design, so like we pushed a lot on the whole design thing. So but when I was there, like I think design place we won one of the competitions I went to in Michigan. We won first place in design, I think either first or second, but like basically the podium. And these competitions are like worldwide, so like you would see American universities, you'll see German universities, Austrian universities, which are the best. The German universities are like the best. The Germans are the best in engineering in general. Like I don't know why, but they're
Is
the
it a
best.
stereotype? I don't think it's a stereotype. It's true. I'm kidding.
Nah, yeah, they're insane. Well, I have a couple of German friends, and seriously, like I don't know what's up with their program. Everything is like super hard, but also like they're super smart. Like I don't know, it's crazy. Anyways, so like go back to the competition. So you do all of this, and then afterwards you test your car. So like the first test would be like it's called I don't know, it's like a handling test. So what you'll do is that you like drive in a circle, right? And the trick is to drive as fast as possible in the circle, right? And the faster you drive in a circle, before your car starts to like lose control, right? So like basically, if you're able to drive as fast in a circle, that means your car has good handling, right? Because the faster you go, the more G-force you have, lateral G-force you have. So you can see how well your car can handle like with lateral G-forces.
It's actually quite funny because the way I would see this is basically the what they're grading on is okay. There's this competition. When we're talking about the handling portion of the competition, is basically if the driver doesn't fly out of the car, that means you're doing good. I think from like a really layman.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Well, the driver will always stay in the car, but if the car just can't handle, like, just give you an example, in like in a racetrack or whatever, like, of course there's like these long straights, but when you do corners, you want to take the corners as quickly as possible, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, ideally if you want to win, yeah.
Exactly. So like if your car can handle a corner at like 200 kilometers per hour, for example, well, then like, and then the other car behind you cannot handle the corner in 200 kilometers per hour, even though you do exactly the same turn. That means the car that you're using at 200 kilometers per hour has better handling.
Yeah, so were you pushing those kind of speed in your competition? I'm getting
No,
a
no,
little
no,
bit
no, no,
worried
no.
here.
We're not. I'm just giving you numbers, okay? So this is the whole handling competition, and then afterwards there's the acceleration competition. So like which car could go basically goes the fastest in a straight line. Drag race. It's basically a drag race. And then afterwards there's autocross, which is basically use these two combinations of car strength, like acceleration and handling, and you put them together, and then you have a lap, and then like who has the best lap? It's a hot lap. It's like time attack. That's it. And then afterwards, at the end, you do endurance to see if your car, I could, like, all of the things that you've shown. Like, let's say if your car could last at least 30 laps without breaking down. Yeah, that's the whole competition.
You got to clarify something for me here.
Okay, go
It's
ahead.
not the same car every year, is it? As in,
No,
like,
you
do you
gotta-
rebuild everything from scratch from the beginning of the season till the
Yep.
end of the season?
Yep.
Okay, like that doubles the like impressiveness, sorry, of this whole task because you basically got to start from scratch, and then with the end of product that will withstand every single one of these criteria. Those judging points basically sounds like an actual grading for any car out there. Like you could even apply to not just like the club that you've been into, and you could honestly take those criteria and take a regular Hyundai or something and be like, let's put it through these tests, which I find it quite funny because
But yeah, exactly. Well, the competition is made by SAE, which is the Society of Automotive Engineers. So they know what they're talking about. Like when you go to these competitions, like you have all these like big reps from all these big car companies that are there just looking at your stuff. It's crazy. Like there's Tesla that was there at the time I was there, and they were like, well, just looking at the students, and like it was kind of like recruitment. They're just like, this guy's really good. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, you want to work, do an internship at Tesla?
oh yeah,
like
sneaky.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is up to par with like the Society of Automotive Engineering. So that's why it's so like.
I was gonna say it's so involved into it. When all the criteria and all that. But what I'm actually really intrigued, like with your story so far, is that how do we end up with a point where today you're doing so many great stuff? So that was all like the study bit where like you got the chance to do a lot of mechanical engineering, got the chance to build cars and like actually have those competitions, and then all this traveling. Where did you find time to actually like end up where you are today? So nowadays you have so many projects going on. So you have the Slab Innovation, and you also have the Recipe podcast, and you also managed to squeeze in like the DJ mixtape and all those kind of fun stuff. So what was the link between then? As in like after that you end up doing all the education part, which I'm assuming you don't do any education anymore. How did you get to the next point?
So basically, when it comes to like I guess music and everything, I mean I always liked music back in like high school. I feel like I talk like I always like that. I feel like everyone liked that. I was like, you like music? Oh, I like music.
Yeah,
and,
it was an easy answer.
it was easy. I mean, like I just really loved electronic music, EDM, stuff like this back then in 2010, and I was like, I want to become a DJ. I want to do this. I actually like. I feel like my brain is special. I like creating stuff in general. Like I told you, like I love drawing cars. I love creating. I'm a designer. I design stuff, right? And I also like music. So I'm like, I want to try it. I'm like, why wouldn't you try it? So like I was practicing DJing the whole time. So and then I was just doing it in my room. And then at one point when I went to university, I actually at one point I only stayed like a year in my social club for like the race race thing. So like Family Test was only for 1 year, and then afterwards I went to the student radio. of the place, and I continued DJing with them, and did a couple of school events and stuff like this. And since then, like, it just blew up. I mean, like, I was already good at DJing. I wasn't that great.
No, you were comfortable. You're familiar with it. That's how people describe you're familiar with with the
I was
DJing.
familiar, like, and I just started from there. I was just like, I found other people with the same interests as me, and I just like evolved with them, and made the radio a better place for DJs. And then, like, from a friend to another friend, I knew I had some contacts, and then I started to mix in bars.
I was gonna say, in your defense though, I've heard your stuff, and like, yeah, you were good. As in, like, it wasn't a lie to begin with. We're not gonna be like, playing that down.
Oh yeah, just plug myself in. Like, I'm a DJ. I have mixtapes. You can listen to me on Mixcloud. It's amazing.
Oh, dude, link it. I'm pretty sure people are gonna have that as a background music whenever they can. So
yeah, seriously,
I did like the bit where you're talking about like this spreading out. Like, okay, start doing it through the radio, student radio, and then we're talking about DJs specifically, like, EDM stuff, and well, the world of EDM, because there's loads of stuff into it. What kind of I guess, like, what kind of setup did that require? Because, like, if we talk about investment in terms of like time and money, what did you need to do that?
What did I need to do that? I bought like the first DJ controller, or one of the first ones. I don't know if it's the first one, but it's the first DJ controller on the market, and it was $1,500.
Oh,
and then
all
the
right.
laptop. But yeah, it's $1,500. But if I would buy the whole DJ equipment and stuff like that, that would probably like send me back to $2,000. But nowadays you're really lucky. You could get like a DJ controller for like a good one. I like Pioneer. A good one for like $300. You can even get it to use. Like for $100, you could start DJing, and actually start with that. Don't start with the $1,500 equipment. It hurts less to pocket. And like at the end, you're still learning the same thing. I mean, like, you could be like an amazing DJ with that $300 equipment. You don't need that $2,000 equipment.
There's a fine line between the step up, right? From nothing to the first, I guess, $300 like setup. That's like a major step up, right? You're going from nothing to one, which is basically like, now you got the tools to do it. And then like as you go up these like level, it's like a smaller and smaller increase in quality of life for DJs, at least from what I understand. But then like that was really cool because like, yeah, you made that investment, right? You made that time investment, you made that money investment, and then like from then you ended up getting loads of different gigs and like exposure into all these like, you got to go to different bars and clubs and to play in these places. So I think that's a really good way. And I'm guessing the engineering background you had behind you in terms of like making stuff work, right? Making sure that everything plugs together. That was probably super useful to be able to do that. That helped you end up doing these DJ stuff. One of the things I remember, I don't know if I was talking to you about this, but in terms of legality of playing songs, this is one thing I always want to figure out is that, like if an artist comes out with a song and you want to play it, how does it work? Like, do you have to pay anything? Like,
okay, so like it differs from place to place. France is messed up. They have like these weird rules where you literally have to pay homage for every artist that you play, the song that you play. But how it goes in Canada, and I guess pretty much everywhere else, is there's this big company that you have to pay to be able to play at an event. For example, like, actually you don't pay anything. Who pays is the institution, the establishment. Okay, so let's say you mix in a bar. The bar pays a certain amount of money to this company called SOCAN, and like, you're allowed to play music at that bar, basically.
Do they pay like a fixed fee, or do they pay like a fee per song? Oh, it's a fixed fee, and then it's like free reign in terms of whatever you could play in there.
Exactly.
That is interesting.
It's way better, because or else it'd be like too confusing, man. Imagine if because just so many songs that you play. Like, how can you quantify everything that you play? I mean, like, do I have to like? It doesn't make sense. So just to have like a single fee, it's way better. And like SOCAN, for example, will distribute the money to just all the artists that are subscribed to SOCAN.
I was gonna say, you're gonna have debate between two people being like, no, I didn't play that song that night. No, I didn't play like Drake's
everyone
new track.
Gets money, basically.
That's actually quite funny. Can we have a ballpark? Is that like an industry secret of ballpark depending on different places? Or is it a fixed price on every single location?
It depends. Like for example, let's say you want to. Okay, Perry finally gets married, and you want to hire a DJ. Like depending on the place that you book, either the place already paid, like the fees are already included, like for the music, or you have to actually pay for the fees for the
Oh
music.
wow, are the fees in the hundreds or thousands?
I don't actually. I really don't know because it's always I've never had to buy, but also like to be honest, like people don't really check it. Like I don't know if they do. Like like let's say if I do a party and I just mix or stuff like this, like I don't think SoCan is gonna arrive to my door and be like, "Hey, you did not pay." Also, like, cause I don't charge anyone. I think as long as you don't make money, it's fine. But if you start making money, you need to like look into it.
That's actually good when you're talking about research and making sure all this information. I feel like it should be more transparent and out there, but sometimes there's always like not obvious way of figuring that out. So yeah, that's actually really really good point to point out. I mean, for people who are interested into trying to get into DJ, that would be a really good advice to begin with. So I'm actually glad that you ended up doing that path for a bit. So that is really sick.
Exactly. So in other words, you don't need to worry about it. I've never worried about it. I mean, like, it only happened once that I had to worry about it. They asked questions about it, but like, pretty much it. Like, as a DJ, you don't need to worry about it. Most of the time, it's the people that hire you that take care of that part. So it's cool.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, man. With the DJ experience, I'm pretty sure like that was super involved in terms of like I would say software because you need software to do it. I just want to touch on that real quickly in terms of like is it like one software that all the DJs uses or did you use like one that you liked more than the other?
Okay, so when I bought my controller, it came with Tractor. It's with Native Instrument. It's German. It's amazing. Plugging it in. Shameless plug. Yeah, it came with Tractor, and since then I haven't moved out of the software because I'm comfortable with it. I could use other softwares. I mean, every software is the same. It's just like it's kind of like a tool. Like you're comfortable with this tool. Why would you switch the tools? You know?
Oh yeah, my biggest comparison is when people always compare like Final Cut Pro versus the other movie maker that I can't remember or Adobe
Yeah, Premiere.
Premiere. Yeah, that's the other one. That's always the comparison where it's different softwares, competitors making it work. So that yeah, from your perspective, it was great that you're something that you're comfortable with and you're able to produce good quality grade, even production grade material out of it. So I think those are just skills that you end up learning over time, and it always just enhances your background. Obviously, your background in engineering, but also now that we're talking about these, like this is very audio, right? When we're talking about DJ, you got to make sure that's bit. Oh my god, when we're talking about audio, I could dive into so many great stuff because obviously you run a podcast as well, and I'm doing a podcast, so I want to pick your brain. But before we dive into that bit, where we're transitioning from the DJ to audio engineering a DJ versus audio engineering a podcast, we didn't mention Slab innovation, right? Like this is one of the main talking point that we had at the beginning. I was gonna say, how did that come into your life? Like, what's the story behind working at Slab then?
Okay, so basically, I finished university. I finished university. Had a brief contract at Bombardier (BRP) for like about a month. Yeah, it was kind of like it was just a contract actually, and yeah, that's pretty much it. After the contract, I was like, you know what? I guess I need to find another job. And before that, I still have some money, and I just graduated, so let's travel. So I decided to travel to Asia. I've never traveled to Asia before, and seriously, I spent like a month and a half over there. It was amazing. I got to discover my Asian side, and then like Slab came into the scenario, and I continued working there ever since, and it's great. It's a great company. It's actually out of because I did like lots of internships. Well, during your university years because you have to, and most of my companies were like big companies, like big names like Pratt Whitney. Actually, I just worked at Pratt Whitney, and this other company called Babcock Canada, which they made like submarines and stuff. And it was always big, so I always felt like a number, kind of like, oh, he's the guy who does this thing only, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Tell me about it. When you have like massive big companies with like 500 engineers, specifically software engineers, you'll be like, "Oh, I'm just another software engineer," right?
exactly, you don't know the big picture, you don't know anything, and you just do your thing. You don't have any like deadlines or whatsoever. It was really like, eh, just there. And that job is a really small engineering firm, as in like we're I mean, like I was alone in the office for a long time. Like I was the only designer in the office for a long time. Like, and now we're two. Like this is how small it is. So you kind of like because of that big like step down, let's say, I got to see a lot more of the big picture and like how things work actually, and just have basically just an eye on pretty much the whole project. So right now I'm working on this really big project. Basically, it's a machine that takes coils of metal and turns them into tubes, metal tubes. And yeah, so like they're revamping the machine, and I'm the guy who's working on the end of the machine, the back end of the machine. It's a big project. There's lots of metal involved.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound so simple. That's the thing. Like you're really downplaying the whole thing. I don't
Yeah,
because
but
obviously
I
I
mean,
don't have
like
the
I'm downplaying it because that's what it is.
yeah because you're talking to me and everything that goes through me needs to be downplayed and so I can understand it properly. No, I'm kidding. But we're talking about like from the insider point of view. That is absolutely sick. One point I want to bring up that you mentioned was that like comparing big companies, small companies. I have this conversation all the time when we talk about like these massive corporations like Google, Oracle, whatever, big names, and then you have these smaller companies where when you say you get to touch the whole pipeline, right? The whole conceptual part of the product. Like it is definitely true that if you work at a smaller company, you put on so many more hats. Even as as a software engineer, like you end up doing stuff that is not super related to a software engineering role, but just because you're in a smaller team, you're responsible for it. So that's why I do get the appeal of doing that. Is that right now you're probably in a position where you oversee a lot more. You do tasks that you probably didn't expect yourself to do, but the main role that you're doing at the moment, when you're saying like you're looking behind the back end of the whole machinery, what does that mean exactly? Like, are you doing hands-on, I guess, like fabrication work, if I have to throw in a term in there, or is it still like trying to design and like make sure that the pieces fit together before they even get made?
Yeah, so basically I don't touch anything. I just design. But like, the design goes from like finding out the client's needs, going to the place, checking out if everything fits together or other measures are good, talking to suppliers, talking to the clients, getting everything done, like having like meetings to make sure like everything is all on point.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the value of GSD. I mean, a lot of companies throw that around, like get stuff done, right? The PC version of it. That is definitely like a big responsibility. Even as you were saying, like as a mechanical engineer, like those are responsibilities you have to make sure gets done at the end of the day. And then when you're saying like in terms of like, making sure that stuff fits or like making sure that the stuff gets done at the end of the day. The other topic that I feel like I must touch at the moment is the recipe podcast.
Yes.
For the people who don't know what it is, like, can you just give us a brief overview of what is the recipe podcast?
The recipe podcast is everything. So it's life. So basically, the recipe podcast, we kind of have discussions on pretty much everything going on in life, but mostly like thumbs down to like hip hop and the culture around hip hop, because my hosts and co-hosts are both hip hop fans. So like the subject tends to go around this, but there's we have lots of interviews around with artists around Montreal that are pretty cool. I mean, we go from we had actors, singers, entrepreneurs, rappers, of course rappers, comedians, and all that fun stuff.
I was gonna say, you're naming every single bit of interesting part of that, entertainment area. In terms of like every single example you've given is something that you could learn so much from. And honestly, if I get in front of any of it, I could ask so many questions. So I think you're in a space, in a topic space that you could dive into so many different things in terms of hip hop, in terms of modern culture, like street culture and all that kind of fun stuff. And then even if you could tie it in the Canadian culture, that's probably even better, because I'm pretty sure it's recorded in Canada at the moment, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, gotta rep that out there. So in terms of like your role for the recipe podcast, you actually audio engineer and produce it as well, which is like, people take it for granted just because when you listen that it just works, but there's so much thought behind it. So I want to dig into that aspect, the technical aspect of getting a podcast on the web, like all the work that needs to put behind it. So I think just like now that we know the recipe podcast, the kind of topic that it dives into, let's dive in a bit in terms of like the setup, for example. What does the setup look like? What did you need to get the podcast running?
Oh, like equipment wise? So seriously, the podcast at the beginning was done at Concordia University, and I only jumped into the team like for season 2, so 20 episodes in, actually. And before then, they had like their own mixer and everything because it was just the Concordia studio, and we decided to buy our own mixer, which is more transportable, and that thing is basically the beauty of the podcast. This one makes the podcast so much easier. And then after this, you need to buy some mics. I mean, like mics are important, pods are important, or else there's the pop. Like you have one on your mic right now, and like if you don't have one, it just you could hear yourself every time you say like a word P. It's really like poppy, and it doesn't sound right.
Oh wow, yes, that's something I actually did not notice. So in terms of like, from my point of view is that I've run this podcast that I make at the moment, but it's just these details of like producing in quotation mark. I'm never gonna call myself a podcast producer because I'm doing nowhere near anything significant like that. But it's these details of like when you're talking about the setup and when you're saying that like, oh, you don't want to be tied to the Concordia studio, or you want to have this more flexible, or the choice of microphone and what the feature of the microphone supports. I personally love talking about this to begin with. So the detail of like the pop and everything. What else would you say would be like a necessity to have the podcast running?
Seriously, like just a few mics. I mean, like at the end of the day, is like what is the podcast? You can have podcasts that the audio quality is horrible, it's horrid, and then some where the audio quality is way better. I mean, it also depends on how much money you want to put, right? Let's say like the only thing you need is like literally the mixer and the mic, or at that point, like you could even use your phone. Like I know people use their phone for the podcast. It's not that great, but if it's listenable, I mean that's what counts, right?
Yeah, of course. And like we want that like that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm like trying to obviously learn so much from I guess the production side of it, or even the engineering side of the audio of the podcast, just because when we have the term that it doesn't sound as good, like what do you mean by that? Is it because it's like not as crisp? Like if you're talking to like a 5-year-old like me, what would you describe a bad audio would be?
Like for example, it's like there's crispness, like you only hear the person's voice. So most of the time, like right now, I could hear like the echo, and not the echo, it's more like the reverb and echo in your room that you have. So you want to have less of that. I mean, like you could have it. It's not gonna kill anyone, but I feel like a really like just think of it like when you listen to the radio, the voice of the radio, you want to have that. That's like the best voice ever. It's like,
you want to have that really sensual bit to it. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. No, but you want the crispness, you want the clearness. That's what you want, and you want to take out all the other annoying sounds off of the audio. Like for example, you were saying like the bathroom or stuff like this.
Like, oh yeah, dude. Sometimes like out of nowhere, when you're recording, you'd have like these random sounds coming. Like if somebody flushes, and it's like, dude, I didn't even know like the water passes through here. It's like that's the kind of, I guess, like problems you would encounter while trying to record anything. So I really like the examples of, the background sound. A lot of times I used to do, if people have noticed in some of the previous episodes that I do, sometimes I'll have the, like a noise filter on. So if it's below a certain level, you filter it out. And the thing is like, you do notice it from a hearer's perspective. So when we're talking about like, yes, recording a podcast, it's more than just pressing the record button and, just figuring out the rest.
I mean, it could be. It could be.
Oh, yeah. If you make your life really easy, it could just be recorded and I'll be done. But there's obviously so much more work behind it. Can we talk about some anecdotes of when, like, something that annoys you when you're recording a podcast or something wrong that happened?
So season 2 of the podcast was shot at a barbershop. So what's great about our mixer is we could literally bring it everywhere. Like, when I say everywhere, I mean literally I could be in the park, set it up, bring some mics, boom.
You didn't mention any like internet connection, did you?
No, because like I said, the podcast, one before COVID, we recorded everything on the mixer. Like I said, like right, the podcast right now is recorded in the mixer, and like you can literally meet up with anyone everywhere, anywhere to record a podcast. And like our spot, well, the beginning, our main area was this barbershop near my house, and we were recording there. It's really awesome. You can even look the pictures on Instagram. But there's the thing is that sometimes clients would come in, and then well the barber would cut their hair, and you would hear the buzzing sound, and it was just so loud. It was ridiculous. We had so many problems like of people coming in and coming out, people talking actually during our podcast because we were right there. So at the end of at a certain point we were like, you know what, can we just like go after hours when there's no one? And yeah, that's we struck a deal with the guy, and we were able to go after hours when there was no clients, and it was just us.
Oh man, I love those stories, like the physical space of where you're working with. Like when I do these podcasts, obviously I try to make sure that it's clean and people can hear each other, and then like the least amount of intrusion happens. But there's some stuff you just can't control, man. If somebody wants to honk their car outside, like you got to find a way to make it a good experience in this podcast. So when you're mentioning like the setup as well, one of the trick if you want like isolated noise, I guess you could have a better setup in terms of what, like an isolation booth or something, which the whole point of that is so that you get no outside interference.
But also I feel like, you see, it's not just about like having the best sound, is having the most comfortable area. like we went pretty much everywhere. We also did like a podcast episode at the thrift shop. That was really awesome. And like we were on sofas, we were just chilling. There was nobody in because it was after hours. Like when the guy we interviewed like got us in after hours. And like, this was the sound quality the best? Probably not. But like the guy was comfortable, and he was just talking, and just it was fun. It was also at that point, this is where you actually like film your podcast. This is where you film your podcast. And just like yeah, I mean, like I feel like the area is like, the feeling of the area is way more important than actually the audio.
Oh yeah, of course. Because I mean, not only is there the producing side of the podcast, there's also like the bit where people actually have to produce content in it. So that's like very super important. So I do like that two perspective on actually having a podcast out there, and then everything. Which I think from my personal experience, that's basically it. Is like from the beginning to the end. Unfortunately, I'm the only person that's working on this project, so I basically got to look over, making sure that the room is comfortable. Like people are talking about interesting stuff. Like even scheduling it has always been a pain in the butt. But actually, the example when you're saying like, oh, if people start talking in the barbershop, if there's buzzing or whatever, and that gets caught in the audio, like how do you go about with the? I guess you use the software to clean that up, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the thing well, we try to we try to like take it out as much as possible, which is not as easy sometimes. You just kind of have to let it. So our mixer, like you could record like all the channels basically that goes in like separately. So you could like always, you could work on every channel. Let's say I could work on Perry's voice. His voice has too much bass in it. He didn't speak correctly because his mic was too far. You could like bring the volume up just for Perry. You could like, you could like fool around. This guy has too much distortion because he speaks too loud. You put a limiter on his voice. You could be like, you do a bit of tweaking there and there, so you cut it up, you do a bit of tweaking on the voice, you make it sound good. We also have some presets for like my roommate, so Akeem. So he has his own presets. So like when we put it on PreSonus, you just like slap in his presets, so like his voice will always sound the same.
That's actually a really good trick. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about that preset trick, but like even for me, I don't often do it because I'm not super familiar with how to do it to begin with. Just because like the process that I have is much more raw. Obviously, like I'll try to figure out like the volume levels, and I'll try to figure out like the weird noises, and if it's there, if I can cut it out, I'll try to do it. But I think the important point to point out here, is if you see like an episode or any podcast or any audio bit that is like an hour long, trust me that the work behind it is way more than an hour. Like the amount of times I'm like setting it up and like to actually clean it up and put it on the I guess internet to begin with, like it's probably like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the length of the actual project. So Actually, one of the things that I'm quite like, I put a lot of importance whenever I try to record any of this, that I want to do the least amount of work post-production. So anything after the recording, like I want to put myself in a zone where like you don't have to touch it. So yeah, I think that's something like what are some tips for people to minimize that post-production time?
Just use the right place, man. Just make sure that during the recording everything is seamless. When it's like seriously the episodes that had the most problems during the recording are the ones that take the most time post recording. It's like the post production to like these episodes are horrible because you're trying to make the best that you can, so like it's like salvageable, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
tell me about it. The amount of times I've tried to re-listen to audio, be like, "What in the world am I doing with this?" It's so good
exactly.
that so many people out there are relating to this to put this out there. But yeah, hopefully these are going to be all great lessons for anybody trying to get into this. And obviously, people can reach out to either of us. For the people that are trying to like go into the same path as what you've done, like whether it be going into a mechanical engineer or whether it be going into building cars or going into making a podcast kind of thing, do you have some like advice for the for the listeners that are trying to explore this bit of your world?
Yeah, just I know it's gonna be really cheesy, but seriously, like because of COVID, you know, like you kind of do a lot of self thinking, and yeah, just be yourself. Enjoy what you do. Do it for the right reasons. Like I just the reason I became a DJ and do whatever the hell I want is because I want it. You know, like it's not I want it, it's like I enjoy it. It's like for me, instead of playing video games, you know, and just you doing other hobbies, you just do what you want to do. Do your hobbies. If you really love it, then do it. You know. That's pretty much it. And then afterwards, you just it's just gonna get better. I mean, like that's how I became an engineer because like I was just like you know like, I really love I enjoy designing cars. I enjoyed designing in general, and like if it was me now, maybe I wouldn't even become a mechanical engineer. I mean, I'm a mechanical engineer because I did the whole degree thing. But like seriously, like the more it goes, the more I'm like, you know what? I like music. Maybe I'll just become an audio engineer at that point. If I have to redo the whole thing, maybe I'll be just an audio engineer. But I'm not. I'm both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not one. It actually doesn't get any more complicated than that. So I think you really put it in a nice way. Like, do what you enjoy and you'll end up somewhere that you'll be, satisfied and content with what you're doing.
Exactly. It takes time also. You know, like you can't just be good at a thing like right away. I mean, the podcast thing, I mean, we've been, before the podcast, it was a radio show at Concordia. We did that for like 2-3 years, a student radio show. I mean, like, we're not like, it's like for the podcasting is not new for us. En parenthèse, you know?
Yeah, of course. All parenthèse. I love that. This is all great stuff, man. But yeah, dude, where can people follow you, man? Is there anything you want to, links, tags put out there?
All right, cool. So my name's Jonathan. My DJ name is J Chucks. You can find me on Instagram with J Chucks. I also have SoundCloud, J Chucks. Don't have much on SoundCloud. Don't have much on Mixcloud. Actually, I do have a couple of mixtapes on Mixcloud if you want to hear. And if you want to reach me on the podcast, it's called The Recipe Pod on Instagram. And it's The Recipe Podcast on every platform. Go listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. And yeah, that's it.
Amazing, man. Yo, thanks again for being on the show. I think we've learned so much from it. So yeah, I just want a big thank you to you, man.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, I'll catch you guys on the next episode.